All right, everyone, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Legends video. And for this one, we are going to cover the rating match top 20 characters. I hope you guys enjoy. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you are new, as well as the notification bell so you don't miss anything we upload here on the channel. Also, check out that QR code if you haven't yet. Scan that code and let me know in the comment section down below as we go through this list which characters surprise you and which don't. So to begin, just to give a little bit of background, so they put one of these out once every couple of seasons in PvP. I'm not sure if it's every season, but pretty often the game, the dev team, whatever, they put one of these out in the news, and they are the top 20 most used characters by players at battle rank 70 and above. So let's go ahead and read this. We are pleased to announce the rankings of the top 20 characters used in the Cell game Space-Time Duel by players at battle rank 70 and above. So first and foremost, that means they're cutting the fat, if you will. There's not going to be anybody in rank 50 or 40 or 30 or 20, whatever, because down there you can get by with using other characters. You can also get by just, especially if you're better than somebody, which they are doing a rating match change as well, which I'll cover in a different video. You can get by with a lot of different characters, but in this one, they're covering just 70 and above, and that might be what they've been doing for a while, but I've been out of touch. All right, we hope you find this info useful when forming your next party. The usage rate of each character only takes into account players who possess that character. So keep that in mind. If you don't have those characters, obviously it's not taking that into consideration. Also, it is only counting battle members. You know how you can only take 3 members in your team out of a 6 character party? Yeah, those other 3 you didn't take, they don't get accounted here. These are the most used characters, basically. So the hilarious thing about this, which is why I'm doing this for the first time in a really long time covering this, is because literally yesterday, and I didn't see this, this came up a few days ago. Literally yesterday, I put up a video covering the top teams in the game. And in that video, if you haven't seen it, check it out. But one thing that was very apparent and prevalent was that when I was going through and I was building the teams, there was almost not a team that existed that didn't have one of these characters. And honestly, the best teams in the game included at least 2 of these characters. And the single best team in the game is probably these 3 best characters, or these 3 characters here. So that is hilarious. That just goes to show that that's what the community is running. So let's dive in. Vegito freaking Blue, to nobody's surprise, is sitting at number 1. I mean, just does everything. So my opinion on because this is actually not as clear cut as you may think. Some people will say it's him. Some people will say it's Final Form Frieza Goku. But there are some people that are going to say somebody else, like 17, but those are a lot less common. In my opinion, it's VB 1A and Goku and Frieza 1B. I think there's a lot of situations where Goku and Frieza are better. I think there's situations where VB is better. It just kind of depends, earlier or later in the game, things like that. They flip-flop. But that's the point. Together, they're nearly unbeatable. That's the point. They're both insanely strong, and there's so much control and all this stuff. So, back to VB. To no one's surprise, he's here. You know the funny thing about him being at number 1 is this game, VB's rate is like 0.35, dude. It's like 0.35, maybe lower, I don't remember, maybe 2.5. Anyway, the point is, the rate is so damn low, but you would think everybody that plays the game got him, but that's a little bit of just mind tricks, because really what's happening is the people that didn't get this Vegito are not playing PvP. This happens with every like hyper major release. You would think everybody got that character, but no. What's happening is the opposite. The people that didn't get the character aren't playing because you need that character most likely to really have an easy time in PvP, especially since the boost system was introduced. Now, that also extends to Goku and Frieza, especially because they got their buff. I wonder where Goku, I think they would probably still be number 2 in terms of most used. Probably not second best in the game. They probably slide to like number 4, 5, or 6 or something without their buff. Definitely above Jiren. I guess you'd probably put them at 5 or 6, at least there. But with the buff they got, they're insane. So yeah, and again, the rising rush control they have is like ridiculous, and the things that they gave them on the buff, the just disruption and stuff like that, just makes them so hard to kill and so hard to deal with, especially when Frieza comes in and he's freaking just stealing your cards. And they do that, like, don't they destroy 3 cards on the cover change? It's like, it's just too much stuff. They start going insane. So yeah, and 17 here, number 3, probably the single best wall in the game right now. Crazy defensive character, even though he's not a defense type. awesome offensive option. He is a blast-based character, while the other two we've covered are melee, but that doesn't matter. Who cares? We'll use him anyway because everything else he provides is amazing. Really, again, a timeless character, doesn't have any flaws, really. He does basically everything. And the funny thing about him is that he came out earlier in this year. All these other characters surrounding him are newer characters that came out at least during the anniversary. I guess Kid Buu is the oldest one, and then Gogeta down here. But, like, this guy is still up here. He's like the new future Gohan, where you've got a gem where he's going to age like fine wine. Some of these other characters are going to fall off. 17 is not going to fall off to the same degree. He's going to still be really good for a while. And you see here, Androids sneaking in with 3, 4, and 5. Now, Androids is an insanely strong team, and I think the Android team with these 3 characters specifically, shout out to Cell Max / Magenta if you want to use a green, and there's some red options as well. I personally like using 21, the Zenkai 21. I don't think that the tag androids are great. Somebody asked me about them the other day in that team building video. They thought I forgot about mentioning them. I didn't. I intentionally didn't mention them because they're, okay, let me say this. They are a freaking year and a half old. I don't understand what it is with people in this game where people can't come to the realization that if a character is old in a game like this with crazy freaking power creep, that they're not top dog anymore. So there are better options. There are other characters you can use. And if you're relying on them, that doesn't mean you can't be successful. That does mean, though, that one of these characters is carrying them, probably. Anyway, it doesn't mean you can't be successful. What it does mean, though, is that you are gimping yourself, and if you can build the optimal team, you're better off not using them. That's the point. You're better off using these 3 if you can build the optimal team, of course. If you can't, then that's a different discussion. So anyway, androids, the point is, probably the only team I think you can run in the game that doesn't include these 2. Seriously. And the funny thing about androids is they're probably just better with VB in the leader. No. Like I mentioned the range / melee thing here, and I mentioned in the team building video. It's not really great when you start mixing like that, especially with these 3 being like, what, aren't they all blast based? I can't recall Cell, but because I don't own him, but I'm pretty sure they're all ranged. In fact, I'm pretty positive. Anyway, so like that's a lot of blast attack. VB doesn't really like that. He wants to be all melee, but you know, I think you're still good with that. Who cares? Like, he's so good, it just, he wouldn't be as strong as some other highly optimized Vegito Blues, but he's still freaking Vegito Blue, right? So anyway, these 3 is insane. I talked about 17, Cell, incredible character. The final counter is also really annoying with him, where it freaking seals your rush too. Crazy character. The Gammas kind of I think they got a little bit underrated. Look at 3 yellows here. I think they got a little underrated because VB is in every match. The problem with them is if VB gets them, they're toast. But the benefit for them is, when is VB going to get them? Like, when is he going to get them? I can keep my VB away from. I can keep your VB away from my Gammas, you know? If I got the optimal team, your VB is not touching my Gammas. So that's the thing. And also, the Gammas do have neutrality in their kit. I just thought they got done dirty, personally, from a design perspective, where they didn't give them the reverse element, which would have been really big for them, because then the whole VB thing completely invalidates, because it's like, okay, well, I can just flip sides, right? That does make you weak to other characters, but still, who cares, right? It's a typical thing. And also, even if they didn't do reverse, they've been giving characters, as recently as today's announcement with the new characters, they've been giving completely different elements. The freaking 3 Ginyu Force piece, the 3-piece Ginyu Force team they just debuted today, has all 5 colors in 3 characters. That's insane. But the Gammas didn't get that treatment, as, you know, basically the only, they released 4 tag characters, the last 4 tag characters, and the Gammas are the only ones that are actually straight, you know, 1 color across. In fact, the Gammas are the only character in the game with that combination, where they're just 1 color on both sides, not reverse or anything. Okay, so on to the next one on the list. Jiren, don't got a lot to say about him. I can kind of bundle these 2 together. They're both really strong characters. It's not that either of these characters has been power crept. It's the menace of Vegito Blue. And those characters, unlike the Gamma, and also kind of like some of the team stuff with these 2, it's not as like clear cut as like, oh, I can just run androids. Or even like movies with the Gammas, right? Anyway, these characters struggle a bit with that VB matchup, and their teams aren't as great, so it just kind of struggles a little bit. But still, being 6 and 7 isn't bad, you know what I'm saying? And I think a little bit with Jiren is that you're going to be using him as your potential yellow versus Goku and Frieza. He can kind of wall off that Goku side with the type advantage and some of the things that Jiren does. And Kid Buu, was the best character in the game just a couple of months ago. So he's not power crept again here. It's just his situation is kind of iffy. But if you have a good team, you know, he can be paired with Zamasu. He can be put on some other teams with some good walls where it's also a similar situation. The Gammas were like, okay, when are you ever going to get my Kid Buu, right? But if your Kid Buu does get got, then you could be in a bad position. Gogeta Blue and Piccolo is right there. Okay, I'll cover Gogeta Blue next. Gogeta Blue kind of power crept. Not going to lie to you, kind of power crept once again. People hate when you mention that, but it's like, this dude is literally 8.5 months old. What do you expect? He's like, what do you expect? So, that being said, still a great character. Still definitely a great character. But I think there's a huge, ginormous chasm between him and Vegito Blue. Like, the placements of characters, it might be a huge chasm just here. And this actually is almost a pretty accurate. Like, if somebody were to take these characters and put up a tier list, this actually looks almost pretty accurate. Like, I'd move a few pieces around, but for the most part, this is pretty accurate. So anyway, Ultra Gogeta, still has some amazing stuff in his kit. I think a little bit of what he does gets invalidated by VB once again being in every match where you can't destroy VB's cards early in the game if you're Gogeta and you're trying to rely on your gauge, right? That gauge was what was propping him up a good bit. Again, he still does a ton of other things in his kit, but that gauge not being useful early really, really pressures Gogeta, and it's going to force him to switch out because he's just going to die otherwise. He can't defend himself. So that being said, that's kind of the situation. Now, I can't completely always say, well, when will your VB get this character for every single freaking character, right? At least for type neutral, I'm not going to say that, right? Because people are going to be more inclined to let this character take some hits, unlike Kid Buu versus VB. So it is what it is. But I think that in the right situation, he could be really strong. I just think that once again, if you can run optimal teams, like if you're running Fusion Warriors and you don't mind putting a non-Fusion Warrior character in the leader slot, and you have every character theoretically, you're not using this character as your purple. Your purple is Goku and Frieza, because the chasm between Goku and Frieza and this character is, again, massive. So it is what it is. All right, Piccolo, definitely a really controversial character still. How do you guys feel about him? I'm not really going to comment much on him because I don't, it is what it is. My thoughts on Piccolo, I'll say this short and sweet, is that he's a quote-unquote balanced character. And unfortunately, since he doesn't give you things for free, you have to actually work for most of the stuff in his kit. You have to play a certain way. You got to get XYZ, unlike Vegito Blue, who literally plays the game for you. That means that he equates to being mid. It is what it is. People harp about wanting balanced characters, but when they actually give us non-meta defining balanced characters, and they kind of turn out like Piccolo, and they're not made to be the best character on their team, which you could argue that he should have been because he's Orange Piccolo, he's an anniversary LF, blah, blah, blah. But when they're not, then they get dubbed, again, mid, and people don't like them, people are upset, people don't use them, etc. So I'm not really going to hop into that. I've already done a video on that, but that's kind of the opinion on him. Hit and Trunks. So Trunks, and I think UI is going to be next somewhere in here. Whoa, oh, he's way on the list. Hit, I don't really have a comment on. Hit's kind of a character I don't really see at all anymore. If I'm being honest, I'm surprised he's at 10. Well, to be fair, I'm surprised Piccolo's at 9. I don't see either of these characters at all. All the other characters, actually, I don't really see Kid Buu either. Jiren a little bit, but no Kid Buus. All the other characters, fine. I'm actually, okay, I'm going to say this too. I'm actually kind of surprised Cell's at 4, because I also don't see Cell. Cell got a nice buff from being the brand new character for this campaign, but I'm not going to lie to you. I've probably played Cell like 4 times. So it's not like VB where you see him every game. I think with these numbers, there's a fat gap between the characters. They got to show how many times. Like a number, like if VB's at like 1 million, Cell's probably at like 100,000. Seriously. Anyway. So down here for number 10, I don't really have an opinion on Hit. Trunks, I actually would think that both of these characters, I actually would think both of them would be higher, especially Trunks. I think what's probably holding Trunks back is that he's a Zenkai LF character. Well, just a Zenkai more specifically, and also UI by extension too. And there's just going to be a demographic of players that don't have him at 7-star. Now, even if you got to battle rank 70, that doesn't mean you're a whale. That doesn't mean you're a vet. That doesn't mean anything like that. It just means that you played a lot. So you may or may not have him there. So I think that's kind of what's impacting him a little bit, because he is, if this were a tier list, this is where it would be really, really wrong, because Trunks is better than the 11th best character in the game, I think. I think he could slide up a number of spots. He's really, really, really good. I talked about 17 being the best wall. Trunks may actually be the best wall. It's between them. I think 17 is a little bit better. But Trunks, in terms of being a wall, I think 17 is a better character overall. But Trunks is insanely strong. Zamasu is basically 17 light. Very good character, too. Pan, okay. I'm not really going to comment much on her. Pan actually is kind of surprising that she's here, because the Red Gohan came out. You would think he would usurp her. He's not even on the top 20. You would think Red Gohan would be in her place, but it just goes to show that people still prefer Pan. And they were probably using her alongside this Gohan that just came out as well, who's at 14. I don't think I've ever played him. I might have played against him one time. Rosé is falling down the list pretty badly. He was always a constant top character, falling down pretty badly, but that's partly because he is getting hard shut down by the top characters. First and foremost, there being a dominant purple in nearly every game with Goku and Frieza is limiting his utility. Also, UI Goku, if Goku and Frieza aren't in the match, UI Goku probably is on the team and in the match. Anyway, another thing that's limiting his usability is VB just says screw you to everything he likes to do. Rosé is such an annoying character that VB saying just no, you're not going to do that literally to everything Rosé is trying to do is an absolute counter. It's not a color counter, obviously, because he doesn't have the matching color to counter him. But everything Rosé is trying to do is just like, sorry, buddy, it's not going to work. So anyway, that's kind of why he's falling down, I think. But he's still, I think it's not like a talent thing for the character. I think he's better than the 15th best character in the game, of course. But that's just kind of where he is. UI Goku, same thing as Trunks. I think that since he's down here, it's probably because people don't have the limit breaks. Incredible character, though. Him and Trunks got really good Zenkai awakenings and are very, very strong characters that are going to be on the best versions of teams that you are going to want to run. So again, check out that video because they are in my video. Beast Gohan, I think this is sheer popularity. I think Beast Gohan is still pretty good. I think he's just outside the top 10 probably in terms of actually good characters in the game. He's older than Super Gogeta, by the way, or Ultra Gogeta Blue, excuse me. Like a month and a half older than him. So again, another old character here. Gohan is approaching a year old. So just for the record, like Gohan in a month and a half is like a year old. 2 months, a month and a half, he's a year old. So he's an old character in a game with rampant power creep. Who would have guessed? So I think he's just outside the top 10, though. Maybe at worst 15. I'd have to sit down and think about it, so don't take that, at face value. So anyway, still a good character. I think, though, that Trunks just replaces him, and I think you run Trunks on all the teams that he's available on. Now, Gohan has access to movies, Trunks doesn't. I think that if you're looking for a blue hybrid specifically, you still just put Trunks in the leader slot on your movie team. But if you're running that team, you probably just run Goku and Frieza in the leader slot instead. It is what it is, man. Movies is like really weird because it's not that they're bad. It's just like you might as well just run a different team and just call it a day, right? This guy's kind of interesting. I don't really have any opinions on him because he's just here on the merits of being an android. Like, probably got a nice boon when androids got pretty good before Cell released, and he's just straggling on at the end. This guy, being a revived character, has a little bit of utility. He is now in the boost, I believe, so he's going to climb higher on this list, I think, for next time they do one of these. But that has nothing to do with this version of the list. He's just a revived character that got some play. And this guy had just got a Zenkai, so he's at the bare bottom of the list. Top EX was the brand new one, who's no one surprised. Omega Shenron and Vados, two very good EXs. Omega Shenron is underrated actually right now in this VB meta. If you want to use an EX powerhouse, check out Omega. Vados came out relatively recently during the anniversary and is still really strong, of course, because of it. Yajirobe being here is kind of funny. He's not bad. It's just funny to see him. What's funny to see is the Cybermen. 18 is okay. Chompa's another new EX. And these two, not surprising that they're here because they're both solid characters for different reasons. And I got a lot of limit breaks on them for the anniversary band, as I'm sure some people did too. Some freebies down here. Gohan is surprising because he's not good. 14 is surprising to be on the list because the list is for battle characters. You never take 14 into a battle. His Z ability is amazing. One of the top ones in the game. You just don't take him in the battle, though. So people were actually taking above rank 70. Somebody took 17 or 14 into the match. It must have been like an extreme, like mono blue type team or something. The Gohan is kind of whatever. Not sure as to why these characters are getting used. Not because they're bad, but again, this is kind of really low down the totem pole. Kale here too, and same type of things with some of these characters. They no longer show the heroes, but Let me know what you guys think about these characters. All in all, this is for at least the top 10. It's not really a surprise. But what do you guys think? I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see all of you in the next Dragon Ball Legends video. Take care.